Do you hate yourself? Are there parts of you that you just wish you could erase? I've got something for you. Walk with me. I lost my job in December of 2023 in a round of some pretty crazy layoffs, and I was in the middle of trying to pay for school. I was struggling with discrete math 2, which is an insanely difficult class. I'm married, so obviously I had my wife to take care of. But I figured it wouldn't be that hard to find a job with the experience that I have. Instead of finding a job, I found Persona 4 Golden. I did eventually find a job, but I found Persona 4 first. At a time where every day felt heavier than usual, I found a ton of levity just walking around the small town of Inaba, spending more and more time with the lovable goofballs of the investigation team. I decided to try Persona 4 on a whim after watching a few reviews of the recently released Persona 3 Reload, and that changed everything for me. It will change everything for you. There are more than a few reasons why someone would look at this remastered 2008 game and not want to soak a bunch of time into it. Here are a few reasons why I was hesitant. First, I was not a fan of turn-based games. I didn't grow up playing Pokemon, and my favorite games have typically been action RPGs. Persona 4 is so far away from something like a Ghost of Tsushima or a Horizon Zero Dawn that it didn't feel like something I would be interested in. From a visual perspective, the game looks like it was released in 2008. If you compare the examples I just mentioned, we're talking about some of the most beautiful PlayStation exclusives compared to this. It's a quirky looking game, but it's not what I typically go for. I've never been a huge slice of life guy, and by default with the calendar system, the core of this game is a slice of life approach. But that's where the cons ended for me. So what did convince me to try Persona 4 Golden? Well, it cost me $11, and clearly I had plenty of time on my hands. That, and I was really getting into murder mysteries, and the core plot of Persona 4 is that murders and kidnappings keep occurring in the small country town of Inaba. While the core plot did draw me in, I did spend a lot of time researching which Persona game should I start with, and all of that other nonsense. A lot of motion, no action. Eventually, I decided to go with the game that had the plot that grabbed my attention first. For that reason, I chose Persona 4. But in doing so, something unexpected happened. Persona 4 reprogrammed how I viewed my issues, the passage of time, and how I was using that time. Persona 4 won't get you a job. Probably. But what it did do for me was overwhelm me with a lovable cast of characters and a really engaging plot. Persona 4 skillfully balances whimsical daily life in the country with an actually good mystery, including a handful of red herrings and interesting misdirects. In addition to the nameless protagonist,
His name is Yu Narukami if you're going for a canon playthrough.
the cast is full of people you probably wouldn't want to hang out with in real life. Still, you fall in love with them individually and as a group. The investigation team. Yosuke Hanamura, Chie Satonaka, Yukiko Amagi, Teddy, Kanji Tatsumi,
Best girl Rise Kujikawa.
and Naoto Shirogane. All of these make up for an ensemble of some of the strangest personalities. But you know what? It just works. Something about it just fires the right neurons as you choose to spend more time with them and develop their social links. That choice is part of what leads to the attachment. Every single day, you make a conscious choice of how to spend your time. As you get to know them, you decide who you want to learn more about. This choice gives you agency that is strikingly similar to real life. That brings me back to why this experience resonated with me. In my real life, I lost so much agency as a result of my employment situation. When you're spiraling through a lot of what-ifs, applications, rejections, and specifically workday applications, Workday applications are the worst, and organizations that use it really grind my gears. You have to input your information every single time you apply with a company that uses Workday, even though it's the same system. So it's ridiculous, and I hate it. But anyway, all of that just leads to a feeling that you've lost a lot of agency. Persona 4's calendar system ended up being exactly what I needed to feel like I regained control in some aspects of my life. The disciplined nature of splitting the day into distinct sections and making a deliberate decision was enough to get me out of a funk and to find specific solutions to the problems I was facing. I couldn't control who was going to offer me a job, but I could control which character I decided to romance. I could also control how many times I set myself up for success by showing up each day with purpose. Are you going through a similar situation? Maybe you're in a rut and you're not sure how to change. You're probably realizing the same thing as me. I've spent so much time not talking about the game, but I've spent a lot of time talking about how it made me feel. But isn't that why we play games? The worst games aren't even the ones that make us feel angry. They're the games that make us feel nothing. After going through a stretch where I didn't feel like playing much of anything, I was suddenly in a 2-month stretch where I was glued to my Nintendo Switch. Before Persona 4, the most time I sank into a game was when I went for the Platinum Trophy for Horizon Zero Dawn in 2017, and that took me 70 hours. I shattered that with Persona 4 Golden in a much shorter time frame, and none of it felt like a chore. It felt like I was spending time with real people. The characters that inhabit Inaba can be obnoxious. They can be charming, they can be stubborn, and they can also be cartoonishly evil. But for the most part, they feel like people. That's the highest compliment you can give any story that puts a focus on character writing. A really strong example of this comes very early on in the game. Yosuke Hanamura, who's voiced by the excellent Yuri Lowenthal, is a character who, despite his many flaws, is still beloved. It's really hard to make a character who's written to be annoying on purpose be so three-dimensional. Yosuke is the first party member that we get to know, and his inner insecurities are the first that we get to unpack. Yosuke moved to Inaba just 6 months before the protagonist starts the story. As if that wasn't hard enough already, he's the son of the manager of the local Junes, the major department store that's putting small stores out of business.
Every day's great at your Junes. Every day's great at your Junes. Every day's great at your Junes.
Naturally, this makes him extremely unpopular, and as you can imagine, that has an impact on his sense of self and his identity. A large part of Yosuke's story revolves around one of the initial murder victims whom he grew attached to. This victim was an employee at Junes, despite her family owning a local liquor store. Misinterpreting her niceness as romantic interest, Yosuke attaches his feelings and develops a deep fondness for her. Naturally, her death causes an emotional shockwave for Yosuke, which has even further reaching effects when he realizes that there's a chance that his crush secretly hated him. When Yosuke is in a position to confront his shadow self, all of his insecurities come out. He doesn't accept the fact that his crush was just being nice to him. He doesn't accept the fact that he's doing everything he can to make people think he's cool, since they already naturally avoid him. He doesn't want to accept the worst parts of himself.
That's right! Say it again! You're not me! You're nothing like me!
But guess what? That is him. And when he finally accepts that the ugly parts of his personality are equally as true as the good parts, that's when a new strength and a new power emerges for Yosuke. The power of his persona, Jiraiya. There's a powerful lesson there just a couple of hours into the game. We have to accept all parts of ourselves, good and bad, grow and become stronger as a person. That doesn't mean that you have to be content with how you are, but you can't improve on something if you deny its existence. Maybe you're a jealous person, or you hold grudges, or you're easily offended. If you can't accept that that's you won't be able to fix it. Yosuke's story progresses as you engage with his social link, but just this small segment of progression really highlights the core strength of Persona 4. This is a story about growth, the most human thing there is. In the absence of perfection, all we can strive for is growth. And Persona 4 just nails it. I plan to talk more about Persona 4 in videos to come, but this was the most pressing thought that I wanted to put out there. If you're mentally secure with yourself and your life, you probably don't need Persona 4 Golden. That's great, and I'm really happy for you. But if there's anything, even one thing about yourself that you wish to change, any part of you that you'd like to improve, anything about your self-identity that needs correction, then you need Persona 4 Golden too. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Please subscribe.